Hello, my fellow YouTubers. This is Roy back again. Hope you all having a great Sunday. Excuse moi. A couple things I want to touch base with. We got a 12-volt battery here. We got Leedskalnin's wheel. Pretty much is running. And she's a moving. Got to put a little weight on that. I'm going to talk a couple things about Ed Leedskalnin in regards to the ground and how Ed came about knowing that the ground will pick up signal anywhere, that you want to look around. And the basis of what I'm about to show you is because of what I have here as an experimenter. I have Ed's wheel. So what I'll explain right now what is going on with the Ed, what is turning, what the action and reaction of this coil, this rod, which is iron core to the ground. Now these are weak connections because the bottom of this is just touching there. Here is just touching on top of the cement. Cement's a bad conductor. Remember this. Now this one over here, which is the original like Ed's bar that comes down in his pipe. Now the reason I have these over here, because if you look in Ed's picture, he'll have something back there that you guys hard to really see. And if you look in one of his pictures, I'm pretty sure you can somewhat recognize. There it is. So the pipe he's got is what I have, and then you can see that it's doubled up and there's wire wrapped around it. There's a lot of things in that picture which really are deceiving. So Ed wasn't about to give up anything after he got his beat down over at the first location. This is the second location from that picture. But so when it comes to the ground, I'm going to show you an experiment that I just been wanting to be put out there a long time ago. So this one here is, we're going to fire up a CB, right? So we're going to be talking about RF. And the reason we're talking about RF is because it comes down to the materials. And you can see here, I got an enormous different amount of materials here. They're all rocks. Most of them have crystals still attached. This one is this one here is from down in the Homestead area, and you can see how it's crystallized. Now, crystals are a frequency. Now, think about that. Everything has a set frequency. So this one here is really cool. This is a regular crystal, and it's got iron. These are iron ores right here, and it's just rock with, and there's so many dipoles in these rocks. It's crazy. There's no set anything in those. They flip all around. So in this experiment, let's go ahead and turn the CB on. All right, first of all, just for sake, this is the antenna for this CB. This is a I don't know. It's a car CB antenna, very low wattage. It's low. It's so low it's sick. So we're gonna notice that this beat in itself is gonna show up as a starter. I'm not even keying. Now I'm keying. I'm not keying, watch. All right, turn squelch off. The other part of this gets really interesting. Now this part is me using a LED with a germane diode. Now if you guys ever want to try this, just these are the germane diodes. They're diodes, but they're made of germanium oxide. No, germanium dioxide, so it's dioxide. Then with the LEDs, we'll pick up an RF signal. So like I even make them as a full wave bridge rectifier, if you know how to make them. And this will, a couple antennas and ground, and you'll be able to pick up the RF and collect it into a electrolytic capacitor. Do it at home. You'll love it. You'll love it. All right, so in this experiment, I got the LED. I'm gonna go ahead and I got these magnets down here just to keep myself safe. Look, so I touched the magnet. So we're getting a magnetic pulse showing up on the ground. So it gets even better. So let's go over to this one where the sparkerator is not even happening over here. Remember I said these are just leaning on ground. So we got a bad conductive over here, right? Here's a magnet. Let me just make sure it's connected. Sorry about the feed there, but all right, over here. See it show up? So we're getting the signal. One is key is I'm using a magnet. Magnets help. Let's see if I, without the magnet, come up top here, get a little bite, right? A little rust on there, I don't know. And let's take this one for a test. That's why I like trying everything. Look at that. So the magnet's not important, but through the ground, the metal, iron, beautiful. Let's go back over here. I think we're slowing down or losing something. Let's move this a little bit. Running for a while now, 11 minutes. Just the speed. I have the right spot. This battery's probably getting low. But anyway, let's go back to the experiment. Sorry about that. So you see the RF over here. So it's showing up. Let's do one more test. I got a piece of metal here. in the ground. And the key thing that I didn't be able to show you yet is I'm showing you how this here you're fine, you can just leave it out there. Sunday. Hold on, guys. I got that. Thank you. Get the delivery happening. So here we go. Dogs are saying hi to him. So back to here. So this is sending a signal, but really the interesting thing is this guy. So when I key on here, this light will come on. And watch what happens here. So I'm going to go back here and just connect this guy. I got nothing to connect it to, right? And we should see a little light, right? Right, so, right, we're seeing the beep, right? Let me go over here, pick up this, and I am going to, let me get around here. Hard with the one hand. So we got this antenna, and I'm going to go ahead and I gotta touch the other end of this, and I gotta key this mic. Hold on, let me see if I can do this. What's up, Sue Scott? All right, so I'm able to do this. So the other, you can see this is pulsating off of that, but watch when I key the mic. Now I just keyed the mic, and watch when I talk in the mic. Breaker, 19, breaker. So that's me. I'm going to unkey. I'm keying in. Unkey. Keying in. Unkey. Right? You're getting the pulse there. I'm going to key in. Keyed in. So, when you got that going on, what you have is a RF signal coming from my little CB antenna. And it's not connected to ground. It's got its own virtual ground. I guess the body becomes its virtual ground. And we're creating our own virtual grounds. We're working off of just pieces of metal. And let's look at how we can also do this. If I can key in again, with this is what I mean by keying in. If I can key in and maybe, there you go. So now I'm wirelessly turning this light on and connecting power off the antenna. And I'm the virtual ground. And I can see that this is probably getting weaker. So the good stuff about this, if you do these experiments at home, Ed realized that it was the materials that, whether they're weak or strong in their presence, which we look at them, especially engineers, they look at them as minute, like so minute, they don't even want to calculate the resistance and the conductivity. No, how conductive. Well, God, they all have a connection from another layer above it, is what I'm getting at, is you got crystals on all these materials, and you're able to tap into the frequencies of these materials. That's, I believe, what Ed was trying to show. He was able to figure out, with a simple mechanism of a timer like the wheel, he was able to display displacement in these materials. Like here I got granite. These are all different types of granite. The experiments I won't get into now, but it's very important to understand the premise of why I'm even doing this video. this video is to show that with simple, old, not powerful, and not pressurized, demanding, no capacitance. This is just homeopathic, straight up earth magnet connecting. Everybody wants to disconnect the earth as the source because it's just ground, but the key is two grounds, and we're going to get into that. Two grounds. Why two grounds? Well, you see, I got 1, 2, and once I pulled the pipes up, drill through the cement, drill down a little bit, and I'll throw some salt water down there and throw a rod, a grounding rod, which has copper outside and iron on the inside, so you can pound it down so it's conductive. So it'll give us a little better conductive resource. And then I also have an abandoned 110-foot well that's only about maybe 20 feet away from right here. And I can always run a wire to that, and that's pretty deep. And it touches water. So, Ed didn't talk much about his water well, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't drinking out of it. In fact, I know nobody drinks Florida water unless it's been purified in some sort. Hey, what's up, Laserdisc? Happy Sunday, EL. Glad to see you guys bouncing in, man. Happy times, man. Hope everybody's doing well. Little Ed Leedskalnin story. We're talking about how the ground and how Ed understood that the ground was very conductive in different ways, especially if you get into like electrostatics, which is really cool too. So like right here, this experiment, let me see, can I even go here? So if we connect this wire to the ground, I think we'll be firing a hole. We're firing a hole. I don't like a shock with this shit. So we're on the positive side of this flyback driver. Okay, guys, we're talking electrostatics galore. So remember Ed Leedskalnin, he does talk about the spider, like that the spider can sense you and, with a stare. But he never talked about these webs. Look how responsive they are. So with electrostatics, Ed realized is the connection. It's like the heart of what you're dealing with the ground. You're not looking for electricity. You're not really looking for conductivity unless you kind of formulate it in ways. But I think you can do it in layers. And when I mean layers, I'm talking Wilhelm Reich shit. That's what I'm talking. I'm talking Wilhelm Reich shit. Talking about conductivity. So this is aluminum plate. You got a burn marks on it, and this is a lot of juice coming through the sumbitch. I wouldn't want to be on touching that. Ed realized, and where did he learn the electrostatics? When our Sir Tesla has brought in the electrostatic world, and then our boy Thomas, not Thomas, but more of Henry Ford on his Model Ts. He brought in high voltage, which were high electrostatics. And then capacitors today we use to beef up. We can amplify, like I can amplify this by adding some of those cherry bombs right there. And things are 20,000 volt, 1.5 nanofarads. I start adding those to this system here. I got me some on steroids. So the capacitance in itself becomes important. And why does it become important? Because it's understanding the elements that we have here. And Wilhelm Reich, if any of you guys ever got into him, he was the man that they burned the books on. And the first, I think, USA book burning was Wilhelm Reich in the 40s or something like that. But he was doing studies with sex and orgasms, and the churches were against them, the ladies and all that stuff. So he was playing in the wrong area at the wrong time era. But anyway, so he got into accidentally in his basement in the dark, messing around with salt oxide, I guess would be rock salt, spilled out, and it illuminated the layers of this box that he had built to store stuff. And he realized that there was this energy that's outside electricity. He called it orgone energy. Now, whether it's orgone energy or it's organic or however you want to place it, you got to look at his studies and then get into why could Ed understand that there is something in between. It ain't about sending it electric. Now I displayed an example of electric showing up in different places, which is fascinating. But in real deep, in everything that you see, it's all doing the same thing in this orgone energy, which obviously I don't really think it's called orgone energy, but I do kind of like the natural feel about it, and the fact that you could pick up pulses. You could, it's ground basically, but you're using all of it, but you're doing it in electrostatic. Like this, there's no electrostatic here, but you can see between this on and off make and break contact is sending a signal to anything that will pick it up. Obviously, this is in low bandwidth, right? It's CB, megahertz. It's low. It's low. So it's picking that up. I bet AC picks, or AM radio would pick it up, 1300 kilohertz. So low voltage, low frequency, and you get into these things when you start learning about crystals. This is another thing I want you guys to get into. And there's a lot of troubadours out there, all you guys that are into this stuff. So you see there's layers. You could take a razor and cut off a layer. When you cut that layer off, you'll see that's the lattice work, I call it, of the nature of that crystal. Now that crystal becomes the best of the best. So basically, what we would do with that crystal for frequency, we would pulse it, and it would automatically tune it to one individual frequency. That's what would come out the other end. When you put a little sliver of this into a chamber to where it could vibrate in like sort of free space, and when you pulse it, it'll vibrate to its frequency. So that's the key, and that's the other thing with Leedskalnin. I realized of how he knew about the energies weren't so much about a generator to power lights and all that, because he kind of displayed that. But the parts that I don't really hear people talk about, to the other troubadours that are out there that are dealing with it and experimenting with it, is that it's the sound base. It's more about knowing what you're dealing with, what excites these. Like, for instance, what excites these. Now, I can probably, what can I do? I can do an experiment right now. It's pretty cool to show you guys. This is wood, right? I'm breaking it up as we speak. And let's see what happens to it when we put the electrostatic on it. So I'm not making it small enough. Well, look what I'm grabbing. Everything you can, sand, leaves. So back to the base, this is electrostatic, so it's able to penetrate whatever the material is, and it's able to see what happens when I plug it in. Probably should just start doing something. There it is. I just seen the little dust particles come out. Let's see it moving. So it's very reactive. These are big pieces on here. Wish I had like some dust to throw in there. Yeah. It's this stuff, the sand, especially little ingredients that then if I take something conductive, which is, what do I have? If I put something conductive in front of that, like this, my chicken stick, let's see what happens. Little levitation going there. So I guess what I'm just trying to show is that Ed's able to tap into a different source. There's Wilhelm Reich, and Wilhelm Reich was after Ed. So Ed is like a troubadour to going into the materials and realizing that through frequency. Okay, so back to here. So if we know that this crystal with a sliver in a chamber being pulsated at any frequency is gonna stick to its frequency and put out that frequency. Okay, so with that happening, you're able to take that frequency and do a cymatic of it. So basically you're able to not be at the high speed. Say if this is the high speed of what this material is, and this frequency, I'm just going to throw out there, is in the high gigahertz. You're able to tap into it by knowing its nodal points, and basically the nodal points in the wavelength, take that and you're able to go down and step down and step down to get where you can actually tune it down to where you're at a Schumann resonance like this. This would be 24 poles banging. What are we doing here? Do the math. We got 24 poles. Every time it goes yin yang, it's banging, right? So we got a frequency here. Anybody out there shoot me the frequency? We don't have one pick up, we have 2. This one's not connected. So we got 2. So you got 24 times 2, you got 48. There's 48 hertz. 48 hertz per second? No. No. However long it takes for it to do a cycle. Could adjust it, go faster. So like the Schumann resonance. The Schumann resonance is nothing more than an equation of calculating the lightning strikes around the world in 1 second. So if you have Schumann resonance, it averages between 7.6 to during summer solstice and winter solstice, it'll go up to 40 hertz. It has its own like wackadoodle, straighten its ass out thing going. Back to the ingredients though. So it's knowing about the sound base. I don't want to ramble with you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed a little back in the house session here. You can see that this is pretty cool. I mean, it's just nice to see it even turning. You know, there's just a shaft underneath there. Just running on the wheel cylinder. Pretty interesting how it all comes up through the ground. So when you get into using electrostatics, for instance, you see how electrostatics, what does it do? It penetrates through the material instantly, like it's not even there. So that's where you want to be if you're dealing with, you guys are experimenting to do levitation or any kind of zeroing out the weight, let's just say. So zeroing out the weight, if this would just sit here and do this and negate nature's force of taking the electrons that are in this and absorbing them out from them. So when they're not balanced, this has to go to the ground. Once it's on the ground, it now balances itself out. The electrons are back in there as a pot, as a balance. And then all of a sudden I pick this up. Now I'm pulling it, stretching that field out, that inductive field from the ground out, and snap. Now this is an unbalanced piece of material. Hope you guys understood what I just said. It's unbalanced. Electrons are unbalanced in there. It was able to pull back and balance itself once it snapped away, but it was unbalanced as I put it there. So the key here is if you have material that's connected to the ground, and then you have other material that you touch the ground with, but then you would dig it up, like Ed would dig his rock up. You dig up around here. And now you're going to go separate it. Once it's separated where it's no longer one piece, what do magnets do? I want you guys to think about that. Magnets or a dipole. So when you separate a magnet, you'll have